You are listening to the FEBIS podcast, and my name is Sylvia Amaral. To know more about FEBIS, visit our web at www.febis.org and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Please subscribe to our podcast and stay tuned. And just like that, we are at the end of June, and this first semester has definitely been quite intense in terms of regulatory evolution. Do you agree, Stephanie?
Yes, I think so, as usual.
Well, Stephanie Verilak-Marsan, as usual, our FEBIS Institutional and Regulatory Affairs Coordinator, has joined us today to talk about some developments regarding ESG and ESG ratings. So thank you very much, Stephanie, for joining us in this episode.
Thank you very much for having me.
So we hear a lot about ESG and impact investment lately. And one of the last developments is about ESG ratings. Could you please tell us a little bit about that?
Well, indeed, you're right. I think the whole press and the whole environment has been extremely busy with ESG, impact investment, green finance, sustainable finance. We hear a lot about these terms everywhere lately. But indeed, a new evolution, which is really brand new, concerns a proposal on ESG ratings. And ESG itself, they are probably the three most trendy letters in the sectors these days, and they have been in the spotlight in all along this past year because after the conclusion and the adoption of the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive at the end of last year, then preparations are going on for transposition of this milestone directive in the various EU member states, and they are thinking of various legislative vehicles to do that. But the CSRD, so this Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, is also accompanying many other key regulations on green finance, as I said, on impact investing. There's the EU taxonomy, which I'm sure everybody has heard about, but is not really sure if it's in the scope or not. The proposals on sustainable finance are also a key one, and on these proposals on the sustainable finance, very recently, the European Commission has issued a new package on sustainable finance, and in this package, there is a proposal for a regulation on ESG rating.
And what are the drivers pushing for a regulation on this?
Well, one of the first drivers is, of course, the will to align all the environments regarding ESG regulation and the current political expectations to have matching frameworks and to reach the level that's really expected from some of the political, let's say, pressures or expectations. Since the CSRD, so the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, sets up some new rules for ESG reporting, and we spoke about that in previous episodes. I think of the evolution of the framework for reporting that the CSRD mandates, which will trigger more information from companies on environment, social, and governance metrics, and also materiality. It almost seems a little bit logical to tackle the ESG ratings. Because ratings are an important part of element for information on some companies, and especially some of the listed companies. And here on ESG ratings, so the European Commission has just proposed, as I said, a new package with a proposal for a regulation, not a directive. So it means that it will be automatically in place, right? You don't need a transposition. And the line that's pushed by the European Commission is rather a harsh line, because the proposal aims at regulating ESG ratings with some more effective supervision, and also to set up a set of precise rules for ESG rating providers. So there will be a lot of discussion about who is an ESG rating provider for sure, and there will be also a lot of discussion about what type of rules and what type of supervision procedures are to be put in place. And the EU also wants to align these rules with the rules of the due diligence directive, which is another one, but is also linked to the whole, let's say, sustainable finance approach, because the proposal on ESG ratings suggests a very ambitious rule, which would in effect kind of force a functional separation between ratings and ESG ratings, meaning that in order to avoid conflict of interest, it may be required to have separate entities or separate ways to handle ratings or ESG ratings. So another key element of this first draft proposal is, of course, the scope, which is quite large, because in the original proposal that's been unveiled, the definition of rating would be a very large one, which can encompass not only ratings as we know them from the CRA regulation, but a larger set, such as in a sense scoring. And so there are some important elements which probably will need to be discussed during the legislative process. And another important element is also the type of internal processes and safeguards that ESG rating providers will need to demonstrate in order to get the authorization and the let's say the clearance that they will need to get from the supervision authority in order to operate on the EU market. So indeed, these these rules are going to be important for ESG ratings providers, and I guess this is going to be an important milestone legislation for the whole sector to follow.
Well, basically, would you say this comes to put in place enhanced supervision?
Yeah, I think this is the spirit, and we can see that from various angles. Let's say that there is a will to have more supervision and to maybe clear a little bit or restructure, let's say, a little bit the market of ESG ratings, which could seem a little bit disorganized, let's say, at present time. And of course, the fact that the CSRD is mandating reporting on ESG will automatically require more information and thus more ESG ratings in the exception of the regulation. So, as per the proposal that's put on the table, ESMA, which is the European Securities and Markets Authorities, would be the EU supervisor on ESG rating. And ESMA is already the supervisor for many of the financial undertakings and activities, but not on ESG so far. So they will need to have a relay also with national supervisors per country. And the fact that the proposal left unchanged the requirement to separate the provision of ESG rating from the provision on other activities, such as consulting activities to investors or undertaking, or, for example, the sale of credit rating or benchmarks or audit, will most probably be an important challenge for some of the actors of the whole value chain.
And what is the legislative process on the whole proposal?
Well, as we said, it's really brand new because the whole package on sustainable finance, including this proposal on ESG rating, has just been issued on June 23rd. So it's really new. It's just starting. The process right now is that there is a short public consultation until the beginning of August where people can voice their first, let's say, comments. But in parallel, the European Parliament and the Council will start their work, sorry, with the usual legislative process, the co-decision process, right? So the first thing that we need to look at and which will be important is who will be the responsible committee in the European Parliament that's going to be appointed. and also the adequate working group for the Council. And then it will go through the usual co-decision procedures, and we can already expect definitely that some amendments will be laid down. No doubt that many sectors will have some strong comments, and also that the impact for businesses information and the business information providers could be also an important one if we take into account the fact that the scope is quite large as it's currently defined.
It's something that we will certainly hear a lot still about. So thank you very much, Stephanie. The legislative process is just at the start, as you mentioned before. So we will talk again about this topic in our talks. Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you very much and see you soon.
We would love to hear your feedback and thoughts for future episodes. You have been listening to the FEBIS podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe. Thank you for listening.